Hello.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Sana.
Just 5 minutes,
So,
sir. We are
yeah, sure,
setting.
sure. Let's take our time. I'm also setting things up. So,
Yeah,
but one quick thing, Samaksh, that how I would like this to go, no, is just guide me through what kids need to do when setting up their projects for hackathon, right? Typical things they do, like setting up a database, making CRUD API, adding JWT authentication. It will be good if it can be an interactive session between us. And then we do those simple things together. Make sense? Hello. Hello.
yes, sir. It makes sense, sir. Basically, we'll be picking up from right where we left, and this time we'll be like taking breaks in between to answer the questions so that like questions don't bundle up.
Mhm. Yeah, because see, last time I already did a walkthrough with a sample project, right? I don't want to repeat the same thing. Um, so hence, there are simple things people do. It will be great if there's always an interaction instead of a monologue. Okay? So if you can just engage with me, ask me question that Ayush, how do we set up a project? How do you create an API? If you have any questions about what is Open API schema, okay, so even you can ask questions on behalf of audience, so then we can have a good discussion where everybody understands how things are to be done. Simple stuff which everybody in hackathon typically does, right? Setting up a DB, a model, creating APIs, adding authentication, authorization. So let's have a discussion format between us is what I would prefer.
Yeah, sure, sir. I'll be interacting with you the entire session, along with asking you the questions from the
Of the
audience. And
audience, perfect.
yeah,
Exactly, Q&A session, more like that. Think of it like it. Okay,
yep.
thank you so much.
So, can we start, sir?
It's good from my side.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
greetings everyone. This is the programming club of Triple ITDM Jabalpur, and today me, Samaksh, and Rishikesh will be your host with Mr. Ayush Ghai sir from Godspeed Systems, the co-founder and a well-renowned software engineer with more than 17 plus experience. And this is the second workshop. We'll be continuing from where we left off, and feel free to drop any questions in the live chat. Me and my team will be making sure all the questions will get addressed. And yep, so let's hand things over to sir.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So, as Samak said, this is in continuation of the previous session where I went through and showed everybody how to create projects using Godspeed, the framework over Node.js, and how it was easy to do things, like typical things you need to do when building projects and quick prototypes during a hackathon as well, like setting up your DB, calling your APIs, and authenticating authorization, creating your postman collections, and so on and so forth. And we went through many of these things. And today's session, I would like to be more like a Q&A format question, wherein you ask questions, and it should be driven by you more. Is that what are the typical things you do when setting up your projects, when you go to hackathons or build projects in your own college or for internships? What is it typically that you go through, and where do you, in order to use Godspeed as well, where would you like to know that how can we do this in Godspeed? And then maybe you can even compare, the experience that doing everything yourself, starting in a Node.js project, doing things in a certain way, based on whatever the way currently in your experience of doing things, versus a process based on, a complete standard of best practices that we follow in building such projects. Okay. So in last session, we covered about four main guardrails that Godspeed comes with. It's first is schema driven development. Second is configure versus code. Third is security. And the fourth guardrail is decoupled architecture or a modular architecture of your solution. Okay. These are the four main guiding principles we follow when building projects with Godspeed. And this is an opinionated framework, of course. Okay. This comes with our own opinion as a team, with our own experience, my experience, and those who work with me, some pretty senior folks, of having worked in multiple projects and seeing teams go through the same thing again and again. And often, there are two problems. One is that the knowledge of everybody in the team is not the same, and people are often starting their journey, and all kinds of people come and go. That's the first, is the knowledge barrier of how to do things correctly and in a well done way. Second barrier is assembling everything together, assembling your entire project, all your database, connections, configurations, installing their clients in your project, installing Express server or Fastify server. If you want to do GraphQL, you have to understand and learn Apollo GraphQL, then install Apollo server also, go through the whole journey of setting things up, and then slowly discovering on the journey how to do things, right? That's one way, which basically slows down, number one, the whole process of getting to your end goal, which is to build something which works. Okay. So the whole tooling piece, integrating different parts of your project, which are primarily two parts: data sources and event sources. Okay. Data sources are databases or APIs or file system, any place where you store data or you retrieve data from. Okay. And every time you exchange data, whether in data sources or in event sources, when events come, there's always a schema of data. You expect data to be in a certain shape when you receive it, and the other party also expects, if it's an API like scenario, a sync event, which we call, the other party also expects a certain response from you. The other party could even be your React.js store, okay, the client which is accessing your API. Or if you're making a SaaS service, then you're exposing your API to other people who call your API, right? Or it could be a microservices architecture within your team, where you have an application which works with two or three or multiple microservices, could even be 15, 20. Companies like Uber have maybe 200 microservices running to serve the whole system, or maybe even more. Okay. So, yeah. So then schema is when exchanging data, we always work with a schema. Okay. Now, there are certain best practices that every project needs to follow. Talking of schema again and schema driven development, the first guardrail. You must honor your API contracts always. Number one. Firstly, refuse to listen on data which is incorrect in any form. Okay. Or get an API call or query from anybody who's not authorized to do so. Okay. For example, they should have certain authentication, JWT in place. I should know who's calling my API. Second thing is this person authorized to call this API, access this resource? Okay, then what form of data will this person send? All of this can collectively be called kind of schema of your data exchange. Then third guardrail is API spec 3.2. Okay. So this spec can be consumed by not only other APIs, you can generate clients straight away. There are projects called Open API Generator. If you have a Swagger spec, it will generate your client. Then if you basically even import it in Postman, it will just work out of the box. So then if you start maintaining a single source of truth, your schema, so then everything else flows from there. Typically, one of the mistakes we do in building applications is multiple sources of truth. You have a DB schema, which is a certain schema. Then you are giving an API schema. You are copy pasting, adding same email, phone number in forms in two places when you set up your Express middleware, right? You validate your inputs there also. Second place of truth. All right. Then third place of truth is the postman collection you create manually again. So that then these are already three places of truth. Now things can go wrong at any place. Imagine a bug comes. Where will you go looking for the bug? So these are some of the best practices like schema driven development, the first guardrail that every team should follow. Doesn't matter whichever framework you use or you build your own framework, assemble everything from scratch or use Godspeed. But these are some of the best practices we need. So hence we design Godspeed to help students, teams apply these concepts when building their projects in a good way and in a fast way. All right. So with this, now I open this to questions from you and anyone in the audience regarding your projects. Okay. Practical questions. Okay. Practical questions on what do you want to do in this hackathon? On what do you want to do in this hackathon? What do you want to achieve? I'm here to help you out in answering that.
Sir, one thing I want to ask. Uh,
And by the way, I talked about data sources. Second thing was event sources. Yeah, just 1 second, Samaksh. Okay, I'll just add one more thing. Okay, I will just touch up upon event sources
yeah,
also.
sure, sir.
I hope if people attended the last session, you would have understood events and event sources. So I talked of data sources as places you send or retrieve data from, an API or a database. Second thing is event sources, where you send or retrieve data from an API or a database for your application to be used. Okay. Following schema-driven development, and the same schema can be used for event sources, Express or Fastify or a post server or GraphQL. GraphQL is synchronous protocol calls, where you get a response from your API call. Okay, you where you simply fire an event and forget about it. That's you as a producer, and then as a consumer, you listen on events with certain topics, like with message bus on Kafka or RabbitMQ, okay, or socket connection, and then you act upon the event. So if, these are called async events. This both come together under the events category, and the events are powered by event sources. Basically, sources where you listen for events on. Yeah, this was about event sources. Now let's talk about
Sir, one thing I want to ask is that I feel like this is the question in everyone's heart right now. Like, since Hackbite is coming, a lot of people, including me, are looking forward to use it in the hackathon. So, a complete beginner who knows nothing about Godspeed, how much time do you think it will take for him to get familiarized with Godspeed framework to develop a fully functioning project in it?
So can you define fully functional? What all will it have? The major elements.
So
Will it have a
basically,
database?
a full stack website with a front end, back end, and a database.
All right. Authentication?
Yep, sir.
Will it have
Basic
authentication?
authentication as well.
Like JWT authentication?
Yep, sir.
Okay. What about authorization? Okay. Will it need authorization like role-based access that only admin
Mm,
or manager can call this API?
yes, sir.
That also?
Yes, sir. That too.
Certain role-based access also, authorization along.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all
Authentication
right.
and authorization
So
both.
I feel if a developer single alone, if somebody sitting spends 4 hours with focus, their first project will be done in 4 hours. Except for the UI part, your service will be up. Yes, your backend. Okay, it's a Node.js service which is running. Okay, your entire CRUD API. Firstly, it should be done within 5 minutes or 10 minutes by running 2 commands. Okay, you create a project and then you run generate Prisma client CRUD, which I showed you. All right. So that should take 10 minutes if you have your database already. Then the CRUD API, which is generated for you, okay,
So that sounds like a lot of time saved.
will have created
I personally am like looking forward to use it.
project like this. My first step was to develop a file. Correct. So you will start your project with simple steps. Okay. Even use ChatGPT scheme. Create your application generated. All right. It will be generated for REST HTTP. I think most of you will not be here. Okay. Your entire. Now Godspeed will create by default in YAML. If you have any custom complex logic in TypeScript, you can go ahead and write that in TypeScript files as well. After that, but your CRUD API is done. Your Swagger spec will be generated here in the docs folder. Okay, your entire. Now Godspeed will create by default automatically when you run your collection operation ID tags, your request schema, which was there in the event YAML file, response schema, your Swagger security OAuth, everything will be generated for you. And you can start running your project straight away after that on whatever endpoint you have set. Now, there's a sample project we have given, and I would recommend all of you to clone the LOS project. Okay, it's in GS sample nodes. You can share it with everybody. I think it's already been shared. You can send once more. Use that project as a reference. This is the project I have open in front of me. It has all possible examples you need to run your projects in the hackathon. Just copy paste it using Kafka. I don't think you guys will be using message service. But you must be using APIs also. Other APIs in your project. So here's the sample project. You can see it here. So most of stuff is already done for you. So I believe that a project with a database access, with access to another API, if you are calling another API also, plus adding authentication to all your endpoints. All of this should be done within 4 hours if somebody sits with a focused mind. Stretch it to 8 hours, 1 day, not more than that. Your entire project is ready. If for practice, I'm saying. Then when you do it in hackathon, it will be a matter of few minutes for you to assemble your entire service once you are familiar with Godspeed. So hence I recommend to everybody who wants to try Godspeed in hackathon to first do it in hackathon. Don't wait for the last day, because last day you want to focus on your end goal, not on learning new things. So create a database connection, call an API. If you want to set up authentication authorization, you ask, let me show you. Okay, already some samples are generated for you. This particular data is all set for you. In last session it took, if you go to config custom environment variables, all secrets are here. Which we are accessing, secret, my company as audience and issuer. Just use this, create a JWT token. You have to do nothing, and your JWT auth is on. Now you also asked to enable things like these, that you can add using authz. It's all documented. It's on the website. Okay, documentation. So here what we are doing is I'm calling a YAML workflow here itself. Okay, if the simple use case works for you, that input user role must be admin, manager, whatever, put it here. If you want to apply it for all the APIs calls, then you add it in HTTP Express Server configuration. Just, and this will start your Express Server with these things. The middleware will be set for you. You don't have to write any Express middleware. This is for you. After you have done this, if you want to this on any particular event, you can go and override, or you can change it also. If you want to add some other complex logic for a particular event, you can go copy this auth, put it in an event definition also. Okay, and it will work. In auth, you can even call TypeScript functions. All right. But for most of you, I think in your projects, you will require simple role-based access control. This should work. And feel free to ask us any questions if you have a complex use case. So this is it. Your project has authentication, authorization. It has your CRUD API. So the entire thing we saw, right? So it's Swagger UI will be generated for you. Complete Swagger UI with your entire database exposed as it is. All the definitions are fetched from your DB, the single source of truth I was talking about. Your Prisma schema has generated your CRUD API schema and also your Postman collection. You can import it in Postman. Here it is in Postman as well. Entire API has been exposed even with examples. Whatever you put in your schema has come here. Okay. So yeah, so during your hackathon, if you invest 4 hours in Godspeed, you will be all set to just have your database model is what you need in the hackathon. And with two commands, you will be done with your API. Okay. Then after that, just focus on your UI. Something which Godspeed does not provide right now. But what Godspeed allows you is to use any UI framework you want. Okay, because it's a pure Node.js service which is running. So you can go ahead, use React, Angular, Vue.js, HTMX, whatever you want set up in your project out there. And your Express instance is also there available to you. So you can use that serve. If you want, I can show you how to access the Express instance. Okay, but it's documented in how to access the Express
I'm
instance.
so sorry to disturb, sir, but
Event
your
source.
voice is cracking in between.
Okay, all right. How is it now?
It's fine, but it was like cracking a lot in between right now. So if preferably you can, yeah, like shift your Wi-Fi or other internet.
Hmm. All right. Is it better now?
Yes, sir, it is.
Same.
Thank you so much, sir.
Wait. Okay. Hello. How is it now? Is it fine now?
Yep, sir. It is fine now.
Okay. All right. Yes. So, regarding the UI part, would you have a question on that? How would we set up a React project out here, for example? Hello.
Yes, sir. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes. So my question is that everybody is typically making a single full stack app. That's how you are making, right?
Yes, sir. Usually it is.
Usually it is. How do you make it when you are doing it? You use a framework like Next.js. What do people typically use?
Sir, React.
React.js. All right. Okay. So then you set up your static React, your JS files, HTML files, all your React project, and you add it to Express as a middleware. You're serving it those endpoints also, basically, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what you need is the Express instance, basically, to configure a React application. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Let me then show you how you access Express in this. So when you go to
Sir, a
Godspeed, right?
question.
Hmm.
Sir, since Godspeed is like very new as of now, can like people who have made like maybe a complex project before migrate to Godspeed? Because like I know like setting up a project is like really good in case of Godspeed, but many people would like prefer to still use their like maybe older tech stack which they were using. And I know a lot of people will feel that can we like migrate from everything we built before to Godspeed? Is there like an option or like any kind of release version?
You mean that if you already have a Node.js project with an existing Express service, a DB client, can you still integrate Godspeed into that project? Is that the question? Or
Yes, sir.
they asking to create a project from scratch and migrating everything?
Sir, like migrating, yes, sir.
Creating
So
from
like
scratch, you
migrating,
mean a new service? Mhm.
no, sir, like a previous project to Godspeed.
Okay. Do you want to, in that case, continue to reusing your existing setup and adding new APIs in the Godspeed way, or you want to replace every API and do it in the Godspeed way?
Maybe preferable, maybe the first one, sir.
Okay, all right, all right. So in that case, if you already have an existing project, so you can still go and do, let's say, Godspeed. There's this file here, if you see. Okay, I've kept brownfield.ts. Okay, So what you need to do is basically, if it is an existing project in technology industry, commercial, sorry, the professional term for this is brownfield project. Okay, brownfield project is an existing project, and a greenfield project is a new project. All right. So what your question is, in case I already have a brownfield implementation in a Node.js, how do I still use Godspeed? So consider this file. Okay, here I'm initializing Godspeed, all right, without event sources. I'm not using Godspeed events. I'm not using Godspeed Express event source. This is one possible way to do it. All right. But you want to still, let's say, generate your CRUD APIs, you can run the command generate CRUD API and consume that API also. All right. Uh, Now, there is a possibility that you want to use with, let's say, Godspeed events, and this way using your existing Express instance. Then in that case, you initialize Godspeed in the normal way. This is the app that is created for you. Okay. This SRC folder will be created for you in your project. When you do Godspeed create, a SRC folder is created for you. Take this folder. Okay. Put it in your project in a separate folder or within your original SRC folder. And there itself, in event sources types, by default, HTTP express.ts will be created for you, this plugin. When you do Godspeed create, you will need to basically copy the code of this plugin, okay, paste it here, and that plugin is available in GS plugins repo, and therein require your Express wherever it is. That's all you need to do. Let me quickly show you. Your existing Express can be included here. So these are all the plugins of Godspeed. All right. If you want to customize any plugin, reuse existing Express, or even use any of these, you can customize these plugins implementation. So here I've project opened this plugin. Let me show you the source code also. This is what you'll need to modify in your event sources folder, right? You see this express.ts, no types. This is the file you will need to replace the code I will show you with now. If you just, yeah, Express as HTTP. This is the plugin code of Express. Whatever you saw, JWT, how it is enabled, everything, it is set up here. Okay. Here, as you see, we are initializing Express. All right. So now you may have some custom middleware to add. Maybe you want to add OAuth 2. Okay. Here is JWT implementation. We have used Passport here. You may want to change anything as well. Okay. You can just copy this file. And in case of existing Express server is already there with all your middleware set, okay, then you probably, depending on your project, can, instead of app is equal to Express, just here require that Express, no? Import Express server. If you have Express init.js, if you have such a file like that, right? Whichever file, you should export your Express service, import the Express client, okay, like this, and then simply return it here. Init client is the method. If you see, this file extends GS event source. So if we basically simply need to implement GS event source, if we do that, and init client returns my Express service. See, in the end, what are we doing after all of this? We are returning app. Simple. So if you have an existing Express service, just import it here and return it is all you need to do. After that, your thing will work out of the box. Just change this init client method is all. Okay, so just copy paste this from this project, go to your LOS project or whichever project you have, go to event sources express.ts and paste it. This should just work out of the box for you now. Okay, go to init client, remove all of this that we are doing here. If you want to enable JWT here, if you've already configured it in your project, that middleware is already set, then it's already done for you. You can delete all of this. Okay, but yes, you will need to create JWT config in http.yaml file, which is generated if you want to expose events via the Godspeed way, right? With the schema driven development. Then just return your Express service here. Return Express server. Return Express server. Yeah. That's it. This should work for you. Does that answer your question? So hence your
Yes, sir,
Express
it
server is
does.
integrated. After this, you can go to event and all events will start working in Godspeed way. Okay. This is Swagger spec, like I told you. In your existing tech stack, you are already using Swagger, most probably. You're already using Open API spec. If not, you should be using always. Okay. See, if we want to be good engineers, there's always one attitude. कि चलता है, ठीक है? Now, the only thing which differentiates an ordinary engineer or a professional from a 10x engineer or professional is your definition of क्या चलता है, ठीक है? That's what differentiates good people from great people. So this is our personal choice, and these are standards set by industry, and these are things we should always use when building projects, and it's for good reason. And if you want to continue with your stack is the same, you still have Prisma or Mongoose that you use. There's, by the way, Mongoose plugin also. It's all documented on the website how to use Mongoose as a data source, and it will work out of box for you. So if you are already, and you can reuse your existing Mongoose, just like I showed in event source, right? Even data source follows the same style. You can override, copy paste our plugin code. It will implement this interface. Just change it. Your init client method is the most important method that gets called. And just copy paste as data source code, modify Prisma, whatever. All these libraries provide you method to inspect an existing db. If you also want to expose, let's say, your existing db as CRUD APIs using Godspeed, right? So you just need to put your Prisma file. This file can be generated from your existing DB. There's a command called Prisma Inspect. So you just need to run and px Prisma Inspect. It will create a data source code. Once the data source is created, you can just run the command to inspect it. This ways you can reuse your database schema, database existing setup. You can reuse existing Express server, and you can reuse your existing functions also, right? Because those will be JavaScript or TypeScript functions. Okay. Again, in these functions, maybe you have a project, another folder within SRC, you have old folder. It's up to you how you set it up. But functions, you can simply require import, play around with Godspeed. Let's say your CRUD API with Godspeed is generated, or you're writing any function in a Godspeed project. Okay, there are some sample TypeScript functions being called and also JavaScript. So you can reuse your existing code. Here in TypeScript, just require import your existing code, call those functions. So that's about it.
Yeah, so sir, I wanted to ask, like,
Any
right now
questions?
there's a lot of,
Does this answer your
yes sir.
question?
Yes, sir, it does answers everything.
Tell me.
Yes sir, so I
Please
wanted to
ask your
ask,
question,
like,
Shailesh.
right now there's a lot of trend going on about Firebase and Superbase. Many people use it in their projects. Like, does Godspeed have like support for them? Is it like integrated in Godspeed?
Yes. See, basically, Firebase and Supabase are like, let's say, data sources in the Godspeed world. Okay. So you can simply create a data source for Firebase, just like you saw for Prisma, no? Or an API. So Firebase or AWS, correct? So same ways you can access any Firebase API from a Godspeed project or a Supabase API. You can call any API. Firebase gives a JS SDK also, right? A TypeScript SDK. Am I correct?
Yes sir. Sir, like, there
Okay.
are there
So
are a
you
lot
can
of
add that.
databases. There are a lot of like new databases coming in the market these days. What do you think is, like, I want to ask
Mhm.
your personal views on that. Like, what do you think is the future of those? Like, people do need to like constantly learn about them and all.
Hmm. You have asked a very good question, actually. And I'll say it's not just about new databases, but everything is coming new, right? If you look at HTTP server also, Express server was the most commonly used service before. Now Fastify came up. Many people are using that, right? Node.js is something we use so much, but Bun.js came as an alternative of Node.js. All in Node.js projects can run in Bun.js. It's much faster than Node. Then we talk of databases. So many different databases are coming up in the industry. What you as an engineer or a student first need to learn and know is the concepts. Okay, even in databases, what are the different kinds of databases? SQL stores, NoSQL stores. Then NoSQL has so many different kinds of stores. SQL also has different kinds of stores, like SQL has columnar store, row-based store. Then NoSQL has key value store, document store. These mean different things. Then there's a graph database also, correct? So there are so many different formats of storage of data in the end. So depending on your requirement, every project is about playing with data in the end. You store data, you retrieve data, you send data, you query data, then you display data, and you keep exchanging data between boundaries. So when you guys are learning new stuff, first focus on the concepts, and that's where I have been starting the 10x engineering series, right? I'm writing newsletter on LinkedIn for the same, and our blogs are also going to reflect. This year we are going to conduct full spectrum of engineering so that we all can learn best concepts. This is totally for a community initiative. It's free of cost, public online. Now, one, you need to learn the concepts from wherever you learn, okay? R10X series, anywhere on internet, but get familiar with the concepts. That's most important. Then you can figure out tools to use. What is the right tool to use in a right situation? Now, if you, let's say, are in a hackathon, all right, all you need to do is show a project. You already know Firebase. Then it's like a no risk thing for you, right? You can quickly build it and show it and maybe try it out if that works for you. If your end goal is to show just a running project, you don't want to learn anything new, don't want to try some new things, then great, go ahead and do that. Use whatever works for you. But if your goal is also that I want to explore new things, understand new concepts, and what Godspeed brings is application of concepts into programming through the guardrails I talked about, 4 guardrails. Okay. So with these concepts, when you apply, you can integrate any DB into Godspeed as long as it has either an API you can call, okay, or it has some Node.js SDK that it exposes, JavaScript or TypeScript SDK. Then you can integrate it as a data source. And by the way, to create a data source, there's a command called Godspeed. If you go to our documentation, there's clear documentation. Let me show you how to create a custom data source or event source as well. So if you go to Godspeed docs, and we can keep talking. If this is already answering your question, we can continue. Otherwise, I'll show you how to do it. It's in the documentation. Hello.
Yes, sir. So we have a question from the
Am I audible?
comments. Samriddhi is asking, how can I deploy a Godspeed application on platforms like AWS, GCP, or Azure?
Correct. So how do you currently run Node.js applications on these platforms? It's the same way. Okay. And so essentially, you typically maybe creating a Docker image, or you simply create a server out there. You go run a node, clone your project, and you run node and you run your command, right? So howsoever you are doing this, you can do the same. So Godspeed runs via Godspeed serve this command. So when you simply need to basically go to your service wherever it's hosted and run Godspeed serve. All right, that's it. That's all you need to do. And you can check out package.json. Okay, this is what Godspeed serve will do. It will start a node service only. Okay, or else this is for local development. If you want to Godspeed service. Godspeed build, it is compiling all your files, your TypeScript files, JavaScript files, and it is putting this command in the dist folder. Okay. Then second thing is build. Once you've done, you can do Godspeed preview. So it is simply running your compiled code, which is a node command if you see. You can go around and play within your project, change this command as per it fits you. You can do anything. Godspeed is pure Node.js application. You can do whatever you want with it. I hope it answers the question. We are though planning to have this small plugin which can deploy it on Vercel easily, but already you can do it yourself. Some of you may be using Vercel as well, right? So Vercel runs a Node.js app at the end of the day. No, you have a package.json file which runs, and which is your main command. So you just need to change this package of JSON for a Vercel project, run just like a node service in the end of the day. Build your project. That's one thing you need to do, and then run. I hope this answers the question.
Yes, sir, it does. Sir, one more question from our chat. Someone is asking, like, does Godspeed offer any built-in debugging tools or integrations with popular debuggers?
Correct. So basically, when you are running your TypeScript code, right, the debugger will just work through on any TypeScript code like it does. All right. Now, within the YAML files, if you want to debug through, let's say you are writing YAML workflows and you want to debug through it, we did support in the version 1. We have not yet added support in the version 2 to debug through your YAML code. That is something, there's a pull request already in the repository if you see, but that work is not complete yet. So once that is done, you will be able to debug even in your YAML files, supported in the previous version of Godspeed. But if you write TypeScript code, then it should just work like any other TypeScript code that you run anywhere. It will debug through it. So this is one example. Now, the other example is, let's say,
Yes, sir.
So,
That
so a question.
hmm,
Sir, like
mhm.
many are interested how your decoupled architectures like build. Could you like give us like idea, like shed some light about that part?
Hey, whosoever asked that question, I must congratulate the person. It's a very good question for everybody. So, that's a very important question, decoupling in our projects. So, if you look at this particular file which is open here, okay, this is a function which is called by the CRUD API, create.ts. This is TypeScript code. If you look at the inputs I'm getting from the event, you will not see any express code here. This is just JSON object, params, body, query, user, headers. Pure JSON, plain objects, key value pairs. Okay. Here you see nothing about express or fastify or apollo graphql. Yet at the same time, let me show you. This is running on a REST API. Okay. As well, same thing is running in the GraphQL API also, same project. Okay. You see, these queries are there. Everything, the whole CRUD API is running both on GraphQL and HTTP, but your code is one code. The same function is being called from both places. This is one example of a decoupled architecture where we have decoupled our logic from our event source. Now, this event may come from a Kafka message. It may come from GraphQL server. It may come from Express server. Doesn't matter. My code does not change now. It's forever done. One problem has been solved once, it will not be touched again, even if I change my HTTP server. All right. This is one example. Now, the other example is, let us say, um, your data sources also, right? You have different um, kinds of data sources that we use, right? So now my entire code, if you see in data sources, these YAML files, for example, I'm applying for a loan. Okay, this is a YAML code that I'm showing you. So here, this is an Axios API that we have exposed. Okay, I'm calling data source rule engine, which is an API, which is in data sources. Okay, check out how the API has been configured, the rule engine. Okay, I've only configured the authentication, how my API, I authenticate on my API. Okay, I've configured my headers and everything. Now, tomorrow, let us say that you are using type Axios. Okay, you want, for performance reasons, to replace Axios with a new way, a faster API client to access APIs. All right. Maybe that same API is even exposed via another protocol tomorrow. You could start consuming from a gRPC protocol. They may deprecate HTTP version. They may say, hey, we are starting gRPC now, or SOAP, or whatever other. Then in that case, you still can continue to use your old way of authentication. Your authorization, you will only need to change in this place, the new kind of authentication. And you will need to change the plugins type from Axios to another plugin. Now, whichever plugin you create, there will be only one file of that plugin itself, like the file here in data sources in memory cache. I'm showing just an example. Okay, types. Only one file you will need to change, replace the Axios code with the other code that you have. Let me just show you Axios as well, right? So hence, rest of your code, wherever you are calling these APIs will not change. Your configuration of that API can remain the same if you just change from Axios to another client. Here is Axios here somewhere. Axios. In the end, Axios data source is also simply implementing the same interface which we have already seen. It is JS data source. Okay. Now, this is the only file you need to change. Now, in a project, you may be calling API from 100 places, 200 places, with same authentication logic, same authorization, same try, catch, and retry, right? Your try, catch, and retry logic, if you see here. See, common retry for all your API calls. I want to retry if the status code is 500. I want a constant backoff with this configuration. This can remain same. Rest of your code where you're calling your API, for example, again, create account. Here I'm calling an API. Will this change? No, it will not change. This will remain same because when you have implemented LMS using initially type Axios, and from Axios you change to any other type, right? Any other new data source that you created. That should just be in your data source types folder. You see, this project has AWS, Axios. So you'll replace Axios with, let's say, XYZ, a new way to access APIs. Only one file has changed in your project. This is decoupled architecture. It's and this decoupling is everywhere in Godspeed actually, if you start looking at it. We've tried to implement it as much as we can by design, and at the same time also accepting that everything cannot be solved by framework and existing plugins. Sometimes developers will need to customize their projects as per their needs. So giving full freedom to you to do whatever you want, use any library you want, call, just do what anything you need to do in your project. That's allowed by Godspeed. It's just allowing you to minimize your maintenance and technical debt problems. See, in college, when we make projects, we just go to hackathons, we build projects, correct? कि भाई खुशी खुशी में 4 घंटे में कुछ बना के दिखा दिया. But when you go to jobs, you need to build proper microservices based applications. Okay, it's not full stack. You think that the G's and Amazons of the world are full stack applications? No, they are not. Okay, they run on microservices architecture. That's the real world. You work with APIs and best practices in your projects. And therein, Godspeed has been built in a way that in future you will not have any technical debt. That your project must be built in a way that in future, if you need to change your project, for example, that's it. So that's one of the things. Maintainability is very important for projects, and hence decoupled architecture is very important. is a very important aspect for providing maintainability of the software you create. Yeah, so this was some of the examples for decoupled architecture. And there are more, like you saw event sources, mainly two things, your event sources and your data sources. You are decoupling your code, your functions from your event sources and data sources. If you also look at functions, whether these are YAML functions, I'm not doing the express response.send status code. Okay, I'm simply returning my data. This has got nothing to do with where it goes. If you look at even a TS file, TypeScript, I'm simply returning data. Correct. You even don't need to return GS status. If you want to return with a custom status code, you put it here. Okay. Otherwise, you simply return your data. Even that will work. The framework will add status code 200 by default. But here we don't see anything express or fastify. That's all. I hope it answers your question. And there are, of course, more facets where you'll discover decoupled architecture in Godspeed. But mostly in any project you create, it will be two things: event sources, data sources, and functions. These three have to be decoupled with each other in your projects. If you even look at event definitions, you want to see decoupling at event level also. This is fourth thing. See my Kafka event. It's a JSON schema, Swagger spec, that this is content of my Kafka event. Okay. I've configured my event in a YAML file. Okay. Now tomorrow I want to replace Kafka with RabbitMQ. All I need to do is this. That's it. Same event is exposed there. Now you want to listen on both Kafka and RabbitMQ? Do this. So this is an example of decoupling. Now my code internally will be the same TypeScript file. I'll just get the context object, okay, like we saw before, and like here, the TypeScript code is same.
Sir,
Okay, this is still the same. I get context object which has inputs, it has data and everything. Yes, please ask.
yes,
Hmm.
sir. We got an interesting opinion.
Hello.
Someone has told us that your framework plus Devon is enough to replace us web developers.
No, it's wrong. That I would not agree with this statement. Um, This framework is only letting developers focus on what really matters and do it in the right way. See, what is the job of a developer? The job of a developer is to build something. It comes with requirements of the functioning of the software. That please build me a software which works in a certain way. It exposes these APIs, consumes these database models, does whatever. In the end, I want this functionality to be live. That's what we work towards, right? Godspeed is in no way removing that, because all of that, what really matters there is your end goal, which is to serve your customer or your user of your software. That's what we engineers must focus on. One. But number two, at the same time, every good engineering team thinks of maintainability of the software, of doing it in the best possible way. All right. If you want to be a developer who wants to, just keep learning the low level stuff, it's great. You should actually know the low level stuff, because that will help you build your foundations. But learning one tool, if you think you know Express service and I'm a great developer, then you are living in a delusion, in my opinion. All right. Your journey is focused more on understanding engineering concepts and applying them. And Godspeed, what it helps you to do is focus on applying those concepts. Like, you want JWT to work for you, right? Do you want to spend 8 hours configuring JWT, right? Or rather, would you prefer you understand JWT once and you implement it the right way and done? Now, if you want to play around and learn about it, you can always do that. Go change your JWT implementation, play in Godspeed with a data source. But when you will be building stuff, you want to focus on what to do and not how to do. So separate the two things. Separate your learning from your building. Your learning will be used in your building, but learning concepts are more important when building stuff. So Godspeed will help you build stuff in a good way so that you can always maintain the project for long term and in a fast way and in an easy way. Once your hand is set with Godspeed, you will be playing left and right with new projects, assembling them quickly. And what takes you 16 hours to do something, in some cases, you may do it in 2 hours. Aren't you a happy person then that you've saved 14 hours of your life? You can go play badminton or cricket in that time.
True, sir. Really.
I would personally like that, right? Second thing is when you get bugs and your app fails, would you like to take 2 hours to solve an issue when it could be done in 5 minutes? So, with Godspeed, you will not be focusing on integrations, setting up JWT, understanding passport JS, then setting up authorization yourself, then setting Axios with retries, writing try catch in every file with Axios retry. This all you will not need to do. You will focus simply on building your app. And when you find an error, your area to solve that error is also reduced. If you think about it, that's very important because projects are not just for building once and showing in a hackathon. Real world projects are where users use your project. Okay, that's your real journey, real preparation. So therein, when a bug comes, firstly, your software should reduce the chance of bugs. What you produce should have least chances of bugs. Whether you're doing your own startup, building for even a college project and demoing it, or working somewhere in a job, bugs must be less. When your work is reduced, you will do less bugs. And when a bug comes, the time to fix the bug is also less. This doesn't replace an engineer. You will still need an engineer. In today's time, even AI has come, right? If you look at where the future is going, it is if we really want to upskill ourselves, right, then we'll need to think of higher and higher abstractions always. Think in abstractions. You will be really valuable in a company if you are good in concepts and abstractions. You can see the abstract solution of problems. Your grunt work, let's say your spade work, your labor work, is done by frameworks like Godspeed and AI also. They are not replacing engineers. In the end, there will be an engineer, a commissioner who's sitting and commissioning code to run certain use case to work. This framework is helping us do that easier, better, faster. If you look at it, the same another parallel I would like to draw to help you understand. React.js. Today you use React.js to build your websites front end, right? Another new technology has come, HTMX. People have started comparing to React. It is much more lightweight than React, much faster to do things. These are new emerging technologies for UI also. But in old days, how did we used to do UI? We had jQuery. We used to directly modify jQuery. Call an API, get a response, go change the HTML on the fly. Okay. This is how we used to build front ends in the old times. So if us engineers in 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, when React came in, we would have thought that React will replace our jobs. That would have to do. React help us focus on the real problem to solve, not worry about modifying DOM and 100 other things that you need to do. Okay, so this is natural course of evolution. Human beings, as you see, we don't want to waste our time doing things which are below, which are not really the best use of our time. If I can do something more productive, more useful, which adds more value to the world or for myself in that time, I would prefer to use my time for more productive things. Okay, that's most important. And having hence also a balance in life. See, hustle culture. You can hustle over weekends once a month, go to a hackathon hustle, but you don't want to be in a job where 8 hours a day, 22 days a week, you are hustling every night and day. We want some sort of a balance, right? That's where Godspeed comes. It helps you not only build your first project fast, but it will reduce your errors because you're doing less work. You're focusing on only the business logic. It will help you solve your errors faster, and it will help you build very complex use cases also. As you on a student go on a learning journey of applying concepts, go ahead and play with Godspeed. It will give you a very nice way to play around with new things. And like I said, create your own plugins, modify the existing plugins, learn. We've just given you a certain, you know, a way of playing the game. Godspeed is just another way of playing the game. That's all. A more fun way, in a way like T20 came out of test and T50, right? This is one way of doing things. And it is good for teams who are serious, working on serious projects, and as well for students who really want to learn concepts and apply them. It is great for them to put on a resume that, hey, I know how to build a microservice with schema driven development. I have understood schema driven development as a concept. Your interviewer will be impressed by you. My God, these guys understand concepts like schema driven development, single source of truth. They'll immediately hire you. That company may be using Python. No matter, you know the concepts you need to. It gives you a simple way, clone the copy that file, replace code of passport using JWT with OAuth 2. You have immediately applied the concept, right? You want to try out Fastify now. You have already tried Express. Go quickly, just change the plugin, modify it. So Godspeed will allow you to experiment fast, play with new things, also very fast as a student also. So Godspeed replace engineers? No, not at all. It is there to help engineers. And by the way, let me also take this opportunity to say, we are going to be a not-for-profit foundation. All right. It will not be a company, a private limited for-profit. So it will not be a company, a private limited for-profit. So it's something we are doing for community. We are in the process of as this project grows with time. And so we are going to include the open source projects that we are using. So whatever contributors of Godspeed, whose plugins are used by people paying for Godspeed, they are paying for the software in every new project you create. You need to do better things. Do it once, learn it, forget about it. Then learn something new after that. Okay? So hence, Godspeed will allow you to experiment fast, play with new things. So hence, Godspeed, right, will help us developers build reusable plugins and we put them in marketplace, templates, plugins, and all of these things. And if you go to open source, if you start with npm, if you start with npm, any project, any package, do you see that this line that 65 projects are looking for funding? You must have seen this line. We are so much used to using software for free, all the open source software. But how much of us, how many of us contribute back to open source, right? If you check GitHub statistics, out of 10,000 developers, 9,996 developers are simply consuming open source. Nor are there some changes. We need some changes in the ecosystem where there is fairness and justice. And any engineer who's made something reusable for the world can request a donation for it. And we brought economic model. Second vision is on the learning model. I want to be part of a community to help create a community where we all want to become 10x engineers. I personally have been a 10x person in my life. Hence, I also landed a company where we are able to help others become 10x engineers. Okay. That same 10x attitude still continues today, even though I'm 41 and will be in my life till I die. And I want to be part of this community where people are imbibed with similar spirit of being excellent in life in whatever we do. And with Godspeed, my vision as a person who's been in this industry for 17 years years, right? And if you include my college time too, by my third year, I knew 8 languages. Okay, I had built a compiler of C++. So, having done all of this, I want to share this with the community. Something I created with my team. Once and for all, because I don't want to waste my time writing CRUD APIs by hand. That's a waste of my time. I don't want to waste my time. If I have a DB schema, I don't want to write code. Or if there is something wrong with the code, and when a bug comes, my life is in problem. I have to miss something in copying the code. And when a bug comes, my life is in problem. I have to wake up at night and solve it. Or it could be a holy or a Diwali. I have to spend that evening solving it. Or it could be a Holi or a Diwali. I have to spend that evening solving it. So hence we went ahead, create these tools which could be reused for the world. Okay. Another thing on the economic model, Godspeed will always be free for students and for small startups to 3 developers. Right now, as many people can use it for free, but it will be free for students and for small startups to 3 developers. But it will be free for students and those starting something new till they make revenue, till they grow. Don't pay for it. But when people grow, give back to the community who supports you in the journey, not just in using the tools, but also learning journey. Let's learn together as a community. And then eventually, when this community comes together and everybody is learning together, we are building stuff together, then lot more things can open up on the platform. We can help each other with our startups. We can help each other get good jobs or good freelancing projects. Lot of possibilities open up. But with these, some of the context to mind, we are working on this project, Godspeed Systems. So this is, I just wanted to add on this so that when you are considering Godspeed, one is, of course, evaluation of the framework itself as a tool. Okay. And therein, it's just another opinionated tool. All right. But a very unique tool. The world's first fourth generation framework. Okay. Which allows you to configure stuff in a decoupled way like this, a beautifully crafted microservice. Because for me, engineering is an art, and I think like an artist. And my art should always be built on microservices. Because for me, engineering is an art, and I think like an artist. And my art should always be built on microservices. So I was the third engineer in Ixigo. The CTO Rajnish Kumar, another engineer Vibhu Garg, and me, I was the third engineer. We built to meet them 2 years ago in Ixigo office, 14 years after I quit the company. They said, the founders, CEO, CTO, that Ayush, your code is still running in our servers at the heart of it. I was so happy in that moment. So problem once, and nobody should be needing to replace it because you've solved it once and for all. So this is the spirit with which we made these tools also, to help the world solve these problems once and for all, so that you focus on your startup or on your job, on your delivery and on your learning. So, and as well, we support you in your journey of learning, of getting employed, and of doing good in your life. So that's the kind of community we want to create. Yes. Any other questions from the audience?
Sir, I want to ask a personal question. Like, what you just told sounds very incredible. I'm not gonna lie. I've never seen anything like Godspeed. So I want to ask, like, what chain thought process led you to discovering Godspeed? Like, when did you like decided, ki, yeah, I'm gonna build something like this, and this is how I'm gonna do it?
Hmm. Thank you for asking the question. It's a very, very nice question. I really like it. And Samaksh, it's you asking the question, right? So
Yes, sir.
basically, it comes from my own life journey, Samaksh. As an engineer, I always wanted to be free. I'll just share now, since you've asked a very personal question, let's make it a personal conversation. Okay. It's not just about framework, it's about me also. No? Why did this framework come into being and all the integrations? So, Samaksh, tell me one thing. You, as an engineer or as a person, would like to solve a problem once or keep solving it again and again in your life till whenever that need comes?
So the same kind of problem, I would like to solve it just once. I don't want to solve it like again and again. Like if it's the same kind of problem.
Na? Correct? This is the same feeling I always had. So I did two jobs for 3 years. First was in Oracle. Okay. Second was in Ixigo. In Oracle, I built a remote desktop sharing solution on Macintosh in 2005. Okay. In my first internship. So it required a lot of hacking into the system. But anyway, that was my first job. And worked in online streaming, different video formats, codecs, all of this. Second job was in Ixigo, like I just shared. Okay. Therein, we needed to write a crawler because Ixigo used to crawl 600 no, 15, 20, or 25 websites that time to get airline prices, ticket prices, okay, or IRCTC API to get railway IRCTC API access. So then every time we were writing Java classes, crawling and scraping those websites. So somebody in the team, there was Karun Singla, an amazing engineer who joined us later. Okay, he proposed, why don't we write an XML based in DSL, okay, in which we can write for loop, if condition, switch case. And that itself should be, and we can embed JavaScript code in it, okay, for parsing the responses. So that led to us creating a DSL in XML where we would scrape websites very fast. So hence we basically reduced our effort also. One, we solved common problems of scraping websites, right? There would be common boilerplate code which would repeat in every file. We put all of that in one file, one place. And then we wrote a higher level language to do our particular scraping job. That's called a DSL, or a domain specific language. Okay. Similarly, when after Ixigo, I started a startup called MetaTaste. It was, I still believe, world's very unique personalized movie discovery engine. Worked on a personal vector of 6 dimensions and around 1000 points across each dimensions, and used to match a person's taste on these dimensions with the movies that existed. Okay, and it was a very lovely product, but we couldn't scale it commercially, couldn't monetize that, but a beautiful piece for movie lovers. So there itself, again, when building so many APIs, we were using MongoDB. This is 2010-11 story, okay, to 2013. We were using MongoDB with Lucene. That time, Elasticsearch was still a new baby in the market. I didn't even knew Elasticsearch existed. Elasticsearch is allowing you to do search, right, using Lucene library in a cluster-based environment. A service is always running. But before Elasticsearch came, there was Solar, which used to run as a service with Lucene. But what we decided in our project, a Java-based setup with MongoDB and Lucene. So whenever we would store something in MongoDB, it should get copied to Lucene indexes also, so that we could do very fast search on 1000 attributes on a database of 50,000 movies. Okay. So again, we created a framework for this. We didn't want to write every API by hand. Okay. So we created annotations in our Java classes. Those annotations, with one, copy them to Lucene, every single document we created after writing to MongoDB. Second, it will also expose it as a CRUD API as well. Annotations, declaratively, we created everything. So I've always liked to create frameworks during my career. And then working in another company called Epictions later with a startup in Bangalore. And there we wrote this massive crawler which would crawl all the popular URLs stored on shared on the internet every day on Twitter, or other places, even news sites, blog sites like Medium. What are the most popular URLs being shared on the internet across 40, 50 websites? And we crawled millions and millions of documents every day. And we would draw meaning extraction, sentiment analysis, and do a lot of work while accessing Elasticsearch a lot. So there, every time we had to write a for loop for making bulk queries to Elasticsearch. It was there repeating in every file of our code. Okay. And so hence I simply wrote a plugin which is there in Elastic Graph today as well. It's still documented. It's there in our documentation. So wrote a first piece, which was simply, you add a dot collect feature in front of Elasticsearch call, it will start doing bulk indexing of those API calls. And you can configure the size of your batch list. For a time in your code, you've only added one word. But when you run an API call, you have added 100 word with every API call. Okay, so I've saved a whole for loop and all that logic copy paste everywhere. So hence this kept on happening. Then we got a project from Dalai Lama office in Aramshala where I live. Okay, I moved here in 2012. We were India's first hackerspace in the Himalayas called Infinity Hackerspace. You can search. It was also famous as Ghumakkad, a community space for techies and artists from across the world. And every year we've been doing an event called Hill Hacks. I'm a co-founder of Hill Hacks also, where lots of techies, makers, hackers, artists come every year for 16 days in the Himalayas in June, and we hack, make, and share together. It's been seventh edition has happened already. So, so hence through this circuit, I got a project from Dalai Lama office also. Okay, and there Dalai Lama office needed a digital archive with around 60 tables in the database. Okay, copy their old DB, add it to the new database migration project. Then create CRUD APIs and an admin interface for their team to manage this digital data, photo, video, and all of these things. Imagine creating by hand CRUD API for all of this, and then creating the UI in React.js for 60 tables, right? So there we rather thought, let's make a framework itself and configure our DB model and UI configuration. And a whole API using Socket.js was created or Express. Okay. Second, the admin user interface was also fully configured. The React project would be created by the configurations. Like how should auto suggest work on an entity? Which field should I give an auto suggest on? You simply write it in a configuration file. The auto suggest is live on it. Okay, when I'm searching events of Dalai Lama, what filters I want in the search page? I want to filter by speaker, translator, location, language. Just configure it, and that page is live. So
So,
Uh, I'm sorry, sir, but you're not audible right now. Sir, am I audible?
Hello. Sorry, I got disconnected.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Samak, just to conclude, right? I was talking about the Dalai Lama.
Yes, sir.
That is just another story. There are many stories. But in the end, I just knew that me as an engineer, a profession, will always be building stuff. And as an entrepreneur, a founder also. So hence, to make my own life easy and as well help other teams in the world to have the joy where some other people use what you have built and it makes their life better in some way, as well be part of a community too, where I can contribute back to the world in some meaningful way by helping students and engineers learn, and as well founders make stuff much better, much easier, and people can innovate much faster. So hence this continues as abstraction for modern microservices based architecture. When you work on event driven systems, microservices based systems, which are distributed systems, there is no one full stack application. Okay. There are 50 services running together to make something work. So therein, they are very complex projects where you need to be very safe in how you play the game. Okay. And you want to be fast also. And you want to be safe from technical debt, lack of maintainability. Projects enter into chaos. You need to often do full migrations in 2 years to avoid those things. Make a system fundamentally strong. That's where we built this framework as part of few other people, including people more senior to me also, who've been part of building this together as a journey. And everybody feels very excited about what we have built here. Yeah. So hence it is the natural culmination of my own journey and solving my own problems and as well sharing it with the world. And I want to see a world where innovation is easy, and when there is more fairness and justice in the code sharing or source sharing ecosystem, including open source, and a world where technology is democratized and engineers are able to build products better, faster, and easier. So that's the world I want to work towards. And hence, Godspeed is an offering in that direction. Any other questions, Samaksh?
Sir, your journey sounds very inspiring to me. I'm not gonna lie. And it must be to all the viewers watching right now because that must have that has to ignite sparks in everyone. That is truly inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And, I invite and welcome all of you to be in touch with me. And it will give me also great happiness if even if one of the people listening to this podcast right now would have drawn one benefit which would help them in their uh, career in life. So I'll be very happy with that.
Sir, I also wanna ask, like, you're for someone who's working in the industry for so long, do you have any words of encouragement for the people who are coming in Hackbite or like developers in general?
Developers in general, right? So I'll suggest everybody to go read our blog. There's a series that we have on our blog called 10x Engineering. Okay, they're the first two blogs I focused purely on motivating and inspiring engineers on this journey. Okay, therein you will read my thoughts in lots of detail. It's also on our LinkedIn newsletter, but also Godspeed's blog. So you can subscribe to our blog or newsletter. You will keep getting updates for inspiration and learning new stuff. Now, to but answer your question here as well. We are most of us, the attendees in this call are from Bharat. We can say we are from Bharatvarsh, India, this land. We understand Hindi and our old
Yes, sir.
terminology. Okay. So then, have you heard Samaksh about Vishwakarma? Who is
Sir,
Who is Vishwakarma?
from Mahabharat.
Okay, it's something Vedic. It's beyond Mahabharata. It's also in Mahabharata. It's in Ramayana also. It's in Shiva's and Parvati's stories also.
I have to
So
say,
Vishwakarma,
I have
you
heard
don't
the
know.
name, but can't really
Okay,
recall it right now.
okay. So let me tell you what is Vishwakarma. Vishwakarma was the celestial and divine architect. He is the person who creates the worlds for Brahma and all the devas. He is the divine architect who designs the systems and laws of nature on which things are built. These planets, the sun, everything is his creation. Okay, so he built celestial abodes, planets, and all of these things. So he's the architect of a universe. He's the one who builds the systems which work together to result in a fully functional universe. For example, the one we live in. Okay, that is Vishwakarma. Now, coming to our own universe and this world, what do engineers do? Engineers built the tools and technologies and systems, right? Which the infrastructure, which the society uses to run its systems, to run itself, to add comfort to our life, to us solve our real world problems. That's what we engineers do. We build things which are useful for the world. And it is not an easy profession, like any other profession or a craft. If even if you go to painting and art, you go to creating music which changes the world, anything you pick up, if you want to become master at it, you will have to give your soul to it and love. Okay, engineering is not an easy profession, but if we are able to get the concepts right, then you can play with things left and right, as I talk in my blog also. Once you have seen three programming languages, you know what is object oriented programming. You know how to handle errors, the best practices. Correct. Only the style changes now. So, engineers are the people who are changing the world. Okay. And you just need to learn the concepts and you will be good at it and practice. Think why you are doing engineering. That's most important. Why do you want to become a developer? There's a Japanese concept called ikigai. This word I would like to introduce. Ikigai is something we do in our life which has four things. Number one, it is something I love to do. It's my passion. I just love it. Like some people like playing video games, they love it. Something like that. I like and love to do this thing. So I love to do engineering to solve problems. Okay. It's number two is that it helps me make a living. Number three, that it helps in my personal growth as a person, as a human being. Number four, it helps me create value for the society and the world at large. When all of these four conditions are fulfilled, I have found my ikigai in life. That's my best way to live my life and serve the world with joy, wherein you don't count the hours you have put in because you loved every single second of it. So if you feel this for writing, creating software, this is your ikigai. This can be your ikigai, and there can be more ikigais for you in your life also. You could as well be a great singer or a great poet. Okay, you could be anything. There's infinite possibilities. One can have more than one ikigai. But is this a thing that comes with love? Your natural being likes it. It's not just because you have to do a job and make money. Okay, you like doing this, you have to be sure of it. So if you're sure of this, that you like doing this, then think of the world you want to see in your life. You live another 60, 70, 80 years, 90 years, maybe 100 years more, right? What kind of world you want to live in, and what can you do as an engineer to make this world a better place? And remember, my friends, if you are good engineers, you can be easily creating new products also for the world to use. You can be easily on the journey of being founders yourself on innovation, or joining other founding teams and making new things with other people in the world. But technology is a great power in today's time. If you have the power of technology, you are independent. If you have an idea, you can go and execute it. You don't need to be looking for engineers to do that for you. You are the Vishwakarma yourself, and you can create the world. And it's a great responsibility to be an engineer, to choose the kind of work you want to do. There is also moral and social responsibility that we all carry in our lives. What kind of projects we want to be part of? Do we want to create software which maybe kills people, which creates weapons, which destroys the world, which cheats people, which steals money from their bank just because it gives us a salary? Or we want to create a world of peace and harmony, solving problems which really benefit the common person's life? Because then we've lived a good life as engineers. So don't do it just for hunger of money. And don't be greedy, because we don't need millions of dollars each. Okay. We need simple life and good service to the our own self first, to our family and to the society and to rest of nature also, the whole earth. Right now the world is going through very difficult times, but who here in the audience has complete confidence that world is headed in a good direction? I doubt anyone will say. I'm 100% sure that world is headed in a good direction. I meet people who say we'll be extinct in 10 years. Some say 100 years. Okay, who knows? But we are definitely headed in a direction where things, either at ecological level, environmental level, are changing very fast. By nature, the climate patterns are changing, snow is melting, sea is rising. Okay, survival is an actual threat. We cannot turn our eyes away from it for longer. Okay, second, countries are fighting with each other, wars are happening. Anytime a war happens, whole economy collapses and lots of problems come. We live in a world where humans destroy most of the things. Do you want you and your children and your grandchildren to grow in a world which has such kind of violence in it, destruction? Do you want to be part of that system? Do you want to live a blind race in your life just because everybody is chasing jobs for money and for 20% hike? I also will live that life in faith that maybe it will work, but no one has 100% confidence. So we engineers are thinking people. Okay, we earn very well in our life. Even if you know basic MongoDB, Mongoose, API development, you'll get a job somewhere. You learn that 30,000-40,000 rupees a month, which is more than enough for a full family to live. But there are people in the world who are not as privileged as us. They work for 300 rupees in a day, and that too they don't get work every day. Their needs are same as ours. They have stomachs to feed, we also have six stomachs to feed. They require 12 pairs of clothes, we also require 12 pairs of clothes, right? But our earning disparity is huge. And that laborer, even if he works for 20 years, will still continue to work with 300 rupees a day. But as engineers, you can get hikes, you can be founders of companies, you can do a lot of stuff. So recognize your privilege. You are very lucky to be in this profession, and you can help to create a better world tomorrow. This is responsibility also. So I really have very high expectations from this community, and that's part of why I'm doing Godspeed. Want to build this community because I really believe that engineers are simple minded people. Okay, a true engineer is not a capitalist who wants infinite profit at any cost. He is a good hearted, good minded, rational, logical person, a human being who has empathy for the world and who has certain human conduct within that person. This is generally speaking true about this community, as I have spent time 22 years. Okay, and they are well thinking people, they are smart, intelligent people who can think well, and they are well to do financially. So they are in Maslow's hierarchy of human needs and evolution. If you search on Google, Maslow's hierarchy, okay, first one worries about survival. When that problem is solved, one worries about emotional well-being. When emotional well-being is solved, one starts to work towards self-realization and actualization. Okay, we all progress in our evolution as people. We engineers are in the Maslow's hierarchy above the survival problems, today at least. Okay, and as long as the internet continues, we will be there building stuff. So we think about the world also. We think about our country, our society. Are we safe on the road? What is happening in governance? What is happening in nature? This community can think and should think about it. And they should come together to solve these problems for the world. This is the vision with which I want to be part of this community and help take it forward. So, yes, so be very happy, feel good about you are in a good path. It's a good choice for those of you whom it suits. Okay. And as well, let me also add one more thing. Technology is not just about coding, being a tech professional. In my blog, you will find at least 15 different career lines that you have in the world of tech. So you can choose your own niche within tech as well, but you can make big contribution to the world. And I would be very happy to see, great problems be solved by our community in future. But also, one thing we should all be careful about is greed and this thing of infinite profits. And that's one reason I decided to run Godspeed as a not for profit, is because if everybody looks for maximization of their own profit, right, everyone will be at a loss. And only one out of 100 or 1,000 or millions will profit, rest will all lose. This is what is happening in the world. All the wealth is in hand of 3% people. If everybody will become Elon Musk, we cannot. There will be 5 or 10 Elon Musk like people in the world. So do we want a world where the power is so much skewed, wealth is so much skewed, or you want a world where everybody has access to the resources we need to live well? Right? People are dying in the world from hunger also, or civil wars. This is where we as a community are so powerful. We are founders of startups. If we stop working for greed, but we start working for the good of the world and people around us, then we have succeeded as engineers, in my opinion. So don't look around and see what salaries your friends are getting. See what value is coming in your life and the life of people around you. Go for that. I always valued that whenever I took jobs or projects. And that is all I can advise to you also. And this is just my opinion. I do not claim I am right. You can think about it.
Sir, that sounds very incredible. Like, I definitely find myself scrolling through that blog tonight, and I have to say that I'm really blessed to be able to host this session tonight and be able to interact with you. Hope you had like fun interacting with us also.
I really enjoyed it. And I hope that other people who will see this video or who are seeing it also enjoyed it. And it didn't feel just like a rant of a person sitting and telling what to do. No, I'm not. I'm only sharing my life and what I believe and feel, what's motivating me to do this, and why I'm even spending time with you and the community here. So it was very nice to be able to share things, and thank you for providing this open platform to have a frank conversation. And I hope that it helped, at least one person in the whole audience. If even if that's you, I'm very happy if you picked something which helps you in your life. So that's about it. And now coming to the hackathon itself, what I would really like. Okay, and I would like to conclude with this, sharing this with you all, coming back to our point, that please install Godspeed, create a project before the hackathon begins. So that during the day of the hackathon, you just need your DB models and create your API right away. Create a sample static React page, run it with Godspeed. If you have any problems, ask us in our Discord channel. We will help you out. We can even do one business hour to help anybody who's building a project live as well before the hackathon. So yeah, that's it from our side. And the good, finally, the selection, as I will be happy to see as many of you go ahead and create good projects. There will be some reward for everybody who creates a good project. The minimum will be a recognition as a certificate, which you can use. And I welcome any contributions. If you create a plugin while doing this, please send us a pull request. We'll review your plugin, we'll help you improve it, fine tune it, and you can then submit your pull request to our project repository as a plugin, which the other people will use what you created. That will be one amazing thing. And you can always post about it on your GitHub profile or in your resume as well. Apart from it, best of luck for your projects. I hope everybody is able to succeed in their endeavors and you are able to build during the hackathon what you want to build. And may you build great stuff, but also build it in a great way. So yes, that's my wishes for everybody. Thank you so much for hosting this session.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you then. Good night. Hello, Samaksh. Has the streaming stopped now?
Sir, it will be stopping in any minute now, and I want to express my gratitude again because every minute of this meeting was truly blissful and really insightful as well.
Yeah, thanks, Samaksh. And can you please just stay on after this streaming ends as well?
Yeah, sir, sure, sir.